Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about zodiac signs and how they deal with anger. Now, and it does apply to the sun, moon, and ascendant for all 12 zodiac signs. Well, anyway, people, the first thing I'll look at with Aries, well, how Aries can deal with anger. Well, Aries is probably of all 12 zodiac signs, it could be the most acrimonious. Of the signs, they're the most easily provoked, I believe. And Aries sometimes, more often than any of the other signs, may engage in a very strong verbal confrontation and even a physical one. They're more inclined to do this as opposed to any of the other 11 zodiac signs, I believe. And maybe if this person is athletic, maybe they'll actually box or spar with someone, with a friend of theirs, or engage in some kind of competitive situation, something connected with sports perhaps. And really, and even perhaps something like free weights, because Mars rules Aries and Mars is associated with metals. Well, anyway, now to Taurus. Well, Taurus it can be the antithesis of Aries, I think, as far as the anger goes, because Taurus has more of a slow, progressive buildup as far as anger goes. They're not really that easily provoked, but Taurus can really become ballistic and really infuriating when somebody pushes them to their limits. Now, Taurus may suppress a lot of their anger and really show it more in seclusion and solitude. Keep in mind that in a natal or solar chart, that Aries is often on the cusp of the 12th house with Taurus. Now with Taurus, as far as what they may do as far as their anger goes, well, Taurus really can really be a little bit vengeful. Taurus could be somewhat calculating, and I think a lot of times they plan on how they're going to get that person back that angered them to some degree. And really, the thing about it is, what I think as far as Taurus dealing with anger is really go to what they're good at, as far as maybe things connected with the art, getting in a nice quiet area, a desolate spot where they can concentrate and do something associated with something Venus, like something artistic. Now, as far as Gemini goes, well, Gemini is generally not one to have a physical confrontation necessarily if they're really provoked. Gemini, though generally very objective, can be excitable and high-strung. And if Gemini becomes angry, Gemini, I think, could become very garrulous and really desire to engage in a war of words with somebody. And Gemini can really, because their mind is so quick and facile, they could really cut somebody down in a heartbeat verbally. So that's what I see for Gemini, is how they may cope with anger. Now Cancer would be a whole different ballgame. Cancer, the way they may deal with anger is that Cancer is really more about pouting, brooding, sulking. They can kind of hold their anger back to some degree. They could have some suppressed anger, I believe. And really, with Cancer, it's more about they could become very reticent for very sustained and protracted periods. And keep in mind, Mars is in its detriment in Cancer, and really, Cancer really does not deal with their anger very well. And being a very emotional sign like Pisces, they can have very strong emotional outbursts. Now, as far as Leo goes, well, Leo is a very proud and dignified sign, of course, and they might not always show others when they are actually upset. They may prefer to lick those wounds in solitude and seclusion when nobody's around them. They might put on a facade that everything is okay because they don't want to see they don't want others to see that they're upset necessarily. So this is really, at the same time, Leos can unleash a very strong roar, and they can really let others know when they are really upset too. So anyway, as far as Virgo goes, well, Virgo, I could see Virgo trying to find something to do to divert or distract them when they're angry, from what actually exasperated them. They might do some kind of cleaning. They go on some kind of cleaning binge, or maybe do some laborious work, anything to stay busy and to stay distracted from whatever actually made them upset or angry. Now, as far as in Libra goes, now with Libra has a very even temperament and really does not get mad very easily. Now, Libra is a sign that is generally not volatile or combative. However, when Libra gets angry, I think they sometimes can resort to maybe trying to do something destructive to a person's relationship. So it's like whatever person made Libra angry, they might try to do something perhaps to cause problems in that person's relationships, because Libra is the sign associated with this. Libra, though not about being physically combative, they could do things to upset relationships and find ways to do this, whether it's telling somebody something negative about that person that they're telling. For example, they may tell somebody that knows the person that made them angry something negative about that person, and really get them, maybe riled up. So those are some things to look at as far as Libra goes in terms of how they may cope with their anger. Now, as far as Scorpio goes, well, Scorpio's philosophy, I think a lot is don't get mad, get even. Scorpio, of all the signs, is probably the most vengeful and vindictive, and Scorpio can find that perfect way of getting back at somebody that made him or her angry. And really, at the same time, Scorpio can often be caustic and sarcastic, and they could cut somebody down with a real cutting and very mean remark that really kind of almost like the pen is mightier than the sword, so to speak, as far as they go. So I think that's a lot of times how they cope with their anger, by just getting that person back somehow, and it may not be through physical confrontation. It just could be something that is just causing a problem for that person. Now, as far as Sagittarius goes, well, Sagittarius, of course, is very expansive and ebullient, and they're not the kind of sign that really wants to get mad, or really has any desire to find any reason to be upset about anything. But Sagittarius, when angry, they can really make some very blunt and outspoken remarks about people. Sagittarius can be very jocular and likes to joke, but they might make that person that made him angry the butt of their jokes, so to speak, and maybe do some things that are very ridiculing and saying very derisive things about the person. They might play some practical jokes on that person as well, as a way of getting nothing necessarily real malicious or anything that could be really hurtful, but they might play some jokes on that person too. As far as coping with their anger, that might be a way they might do it. Now, as far as Capricorn goes, well, Capricorn is a sign that could come across as undemonstrative, and they don't really often show if somebody actually bothered them. It could take a lot for a Capricorn to become very infuriated. But with Capricorn, what they may do when they eventually do become angry, keep in mind Capricorn can be about building, and Capricorn can be about structure and organization. Well, Capricorn can do things to unorganize things, so to speak. They might break things in their home or do things and cause it to maybe I guess you could say that kind of unbuilds that object. They might make something in their home, whether it's throwing things around or unorganizing things, so to speak, make things disheveled, and then wind up having to reorganize it again. And as far as Aquarius goes, well, Aquarius, I think, is nearly unequivocally the most unpredictable of all the signs. And as far as how they cope with their anger, what they may do is they may simply do things that are unpredictable and off the wall. I had a friend of mine a long time ago, not a friend anymore, but he had Aquarius rising, and he got mad at somebody one time, and he threw something at the person's home from his home. He was the next door neighbor of somebody, and he did something and threw something that was like kind of a sticky item, and he threw it at the person's home and made it stick to the side of their house. And it's just kind of an example. Aquarius can be very eccentric, very unusual, and there's really, I think Aquarius themselves don't even always know what they're going to do if they're pushed to their limits. I think Aquarius sometimes they could become very acrimonious and angry in how they deal with their anger, and sometimes they might just hold it in and act like nothing's bothering them. Now, as far as Pisces goes, well, Pisces may retreat, maybe go on literal retreats, I think, when they become angry, because Pisces, it can be about fantasy and illusion. And Pisces will often, I think, put on this, I guess you could say, their illusion that maybe whatever happened to them, whoever made them mad, or whatever happened to them that made them angry, they try to just simply block it out. And Pisces, I think, may often retreat to like a desolate area or some secluded spot where they can deal with this by themselves and work out the hurt. Pisces, like Cancer, can be very exceptionally sensitive, and the thing is, Pisces can also have a strong emotional outburst. I think Pisces emotions can often be chaotic, and I think they can, when they're angry, they may react about as more, at least maybe in a tie with Cancer, as far as reacting in a very emotional manner as far as how they cope and deal with their anger because of their strong sensitivity they have. Pisces, I think their emotions can sometimes be all-encompassing, and they have to be careful, I think, when they become angry because of this. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment of how zodiac signs deal with anger, and stay tuned next time where I will be continuing my series on the planets transiting the houses. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.